Hello, faithful people. Things have taken an unexpected and dramatic turn for Joni Lamb, leaving many in shock. After years of presenting a picture-perfect Christian broadcasting legacy, a united, faith-driven family, everything has suddenly changed. As a familiar face on Daystar and a figure known for her deep commitment to ministry, Joni now finds herself facing a deeply personal crisis. The public had always viewed her and her husband as an inseparable team, but behind closed doors, tensions have been simmering. Now, the truth has come to light. Joni Lamb's world has taken a heartbreaking and unforeseen detour. She recently broke her silence, revealing the painful reality of what led to this moment. What truly happened behind the scenes? And how will this revelation impact her future? Stay with us as we dive into the shocking truth behind Joni Lamb's life-changing ordeal.
Well, because I deal with partners for over the last 30 years who've been betrayed either by infidelity, sexual addiction, or intimacy anorexia. And we see them, and sometimes they stay crippled for a long time and damaged, and I'm like, there's something going on. And so we finally did some real significant research. I mean, these ladies fill out 2 hours of surveys before and after the trauma, and they taught us so much about what happens to them physically. The bodies actually experience trauma, and emotionally, and in their relationships, and it's just riveting.
Okay, now you said ladies, but let's be fair to the men.
It can happen.
It's not always men.
Sure.
If a man is unfaithful, he had to have a woman. Well, not these days, I guess.
Right.
Most of the time, he had to have a woman to be unfaithful with.
The whispers of trouble in Joni Lamb and Doug Weiss's marriage began long before the public took notice. At first, the signs were subtle, just quiet murmurs from those who had observed small shifts in their dynamic. But as time passed, the speculation intensified, fueled by their increasingly distant public appearances and an unusual silence across their social media. To many, their marriage had seemed like a storybook romance. After the passing of Marcus Lamb, Joni had found love again with Doug Weiss, a prominent Christian counselor. Their union was portrayed as a testament to faith, healing, and second chances. But beneath the surface, cracks had started to appear. Observers noticed that Doug was showing up less frequently at key events where he once stood proudly by Joni's side. Even when they were seen together, something felt different. An awkward glance, a forced smile, an unspoken tension that hinted at deeper issues. Initially, supporters dismissed it as normal marital ups and downs. But soon, the rumors took a darker turn. Some insiders suggested that Doug was struggling with the intense scrutiny that came with being married to Joni. While he had spent years counseling couples through relationship struggles, stepping into the Christian broadcasting spotlight was a different challenge altogether. Every aspect of his past was now under examination, every decision magnified, and the pressure seemed to be mounting. Some believed this overwhelming attention was taking a toll on him, putting a strain on their marriage. Then came even more alarming whispers, claims that Doug was facing legal troubles. Though nothing was officially confirmed, speculation swirled that unresolved financial matters from his past were resurfacing, potentially linked to his counseling practice. Some alleged that he had been caught in legal disputes over business dealings, while others suggested his name had surfaced in ongoing investigations. The uncertainty surrounding these claims only raised more questions. Had Joni known about this before their wedding, or had she only recently uncovered shocking information that made her question everything? Another theory that gained significant traction was the idea that deep conflicts over their ministry's leadership had driven a wedge between Joni and Doug. Joni had devoted her life to safeguarding and expanding the legacy of their network, determined to uphold Marcus's vision. However, some sources suggested that Doug had different plans, ones that didn't align with Joni's. Speculation arose that Doug had pushed for a more prominent leadership role, but Joni had resisted, unwilling to shift the power dynamics. Could this internal struggle over control have been the breaking point in their marriage? For the public, there were no clear answers, only growing speculation. People who had once admired Joni and Doug's seemingly unwavering relationship now found themselves questioning everything. Had their marriage been unraveling behind the scenes for months, possibly even years? Was Doug concealing something from the public? And the biggest mystery, just how long had this turmoil been brewing beneath the surface? As rumors spread like wildfire, Joni and Doug's silence only made matters worse. Neither addressed the circulating whispers, which only led many to believe that there was truth behind them. After all, if their marriage was intact, why not put the speculation to rest? Instead, their refusal to speak on the matter fueled even more questions, leaving fans searching for truth. Then, the most shocking revelation emerged. Reports surfaced suggesting that Joni and Doug had already been living apart for quite some time. While no official confirmation had been given, insiders alleged that Doug had quietly moved out, while Joni had immersed herself entirely in her ministry, carefully avoiding any mention of her personal life. If these claims were true, then their marriage had been in trouble long before the public had any idea. Fans who believed in their love story now felt stunned and betrayed. How had a seemingly perfect relationship collapsed into secrecy and distance? Was this just a case of two people growing apart? Or was there a much deeper and more unsettling truth hiding beneath the surface? For now, the truth remained a mystery, but one thing was clear. This was no longer just a rumor. Something was happening between Joni Lamb and Doug Weiss. It was only a matter of time before the truth came to light.
The sexual effects, what he would do to you, and I don't want to say that.
We talked about
I
sex.
don't tell people. I don't tell people what
We talked
you read out
about
to me.
sex,
And
like
see,
two
and I
adults
won't
would.
know.
But he never sexted me. He never said anything inappropriate. We didn't have sex until we got
can I
married.
finish?
He is known for his integrity.
This is just sexual talk.
When Joni had told me those things, again shoving them down
Told you what things?
about the text he was sending you, and you were happy, and I didn't know how to process it.
What text?
About the sexual effects, what he would do to you, and I don't want to say that.
What text? We talked about
I
sex.
don't tell people. I don't tell people
We
what
talked
you read out
about
to me.
sex,
And
like
see,
two
and I
adults
won't
would.
know.
But he never sexted me. He never said anything inappropriate. We didn't have sex until we got
can I
married.
finish?
He is known for his integrity.
This is just sexual talk.
Okay, that's
is what
not
she's
even
talking
it.
about.
This is not even it, okay? So, when she starts telling me about that, I'm keeping it to myself. I'm really starting to get stressed. Things are not sitting well. My body's starting to get really acting up. That's when my panic attacks started happening.
I was saying that when you got the text.
When she was reading all this stuff to me. And Rachel and Beck on the other side were, like, what's going on? I'm not telling them not one word about that. Not about that. When Jimmy comes in the picture as the one she trusted, after that, before we all six met with Jimmy Evans, I called Jimmy privately because I didn't want to dishonor her or talk about that in front of her other children. I called Jimmy privately the day before the meeting, and he will attest to this, and I said, hey, this is something I don't know how to process. Can you help me process it? Is this okay?
Life after the divorce. Pain, shock, and public reaction. When the news of Joni Lamb and Doug Weiss's divorce became public, the Christian community was left in shock. Just months before, they had presented the image of a strong and faithful couple, a testament to love after loss. But now that carefully built image had crumbled, leaving behind unanswered questions, confusion, and heartbreak. For Joni, the divorce was more than just the end of marriage. It was a collapse of a future she had believed in. She had stood before millions sharing her love story, believing that God had given her a second chance at happiness after losing Marcus Lamb. But now she was forced to accept the painful reality. What she thought would last forever had ended far sooner than expected. In private, Joni was overwhelmed with emotions. She had spent years presenting herself as a woman of unshakable faith, but now she was facing something deeply personal in the most public way possible. Every detail of her life was scrutinized. Every move she made was analyzed, and every word she spoke was met with speculation. She wanted to grieve in peace, but there was no escape in the eyes of the public. Doug, on the other hand, had his own struggles. His reputation as a marriage counselor was now under heavy criticism. How could a man who had spent decades advising couples on how to keep their relationships strong not be able to save his own marriage? The irony of the situation was not lost on the public, and Doug knew it. He had built a brand around being a relationship expert, but now his own credibility was being questioned. Reactions from those closest to the couple were deeply divided. Jan's children, who had welcomed Doug into their family with open arms, struggled to come to terms with the situation. They had fully supported their mother's choice to remarry, seeing it as a blessing after Marcus's passing. Now, they felt a strong urge to protect her from the harsh criticism and scrutiny that seemed to be coming from every direction. Seeing the emotional toll this was taking on her only made them more determined to shield her from the pain of yet another heartbreak, especially one unfolding so publicly. Doug's inner circle was just as conflicted. Some of his closest friends believed he was being unfairly judged, insisting that marriages break down for all sorts of reasons, and that no one outside the relationship had the right to speculate on what had truly happened. Others, however, weren't convinced that the full story had been told. There were whispers of hidden tensions, unspoken conflicts, and secrets still lurking beneath the surface. The media wasted no time dissecting every angle of the situation. Certain Christian platforms took a compassionate stance, urging prayers for both Joni and Doug and framing the divorce as an unfortunate but inevitable part of life. Other outlets, however, were far less sympathetic. Headlines speculated about the reasons behind the split, with some reports suggesting that Joni had been blindsided by Doug's decision. Others painted a picture of Doug struggling under the weight of public expectations, hinting that the pressures of their highly visible life had driven an irreparable wedge between them. Then came the theories. Some believed Doug had wanted to leave for months, but remained silent to avoid public backlash. Others speculated that Joni had uncovered something she simply couldn't overlook, forcing her to take the painful step of ending their marriage. There were even rumors that the divorce had been in motion long before it became public knowledge, and that both had been quietly preparing for this inevitable moment, long before the world caught wind of their fractured relationship. Through it all, Joni maintained a poised and collected image in public. She carefully crafted her statements, emphasizing her trust in God's plan and her commitment to her ministry. She understood that her audience was watching closely, and the last thing she wanted was for them to see the depth of her personal pain. But in private, she was hurting. The end of a marriage is always heartbreaking, but enduring it under the relentless gaze of the public made it an entirely different kind of agony. Doug, too, attempted to stay out of the spotlight, but that proved to be a challenge. The Christian community isn't known for easily forgiving those who fall from grace, and the criticism he faced was relentless. Some accused him of being dishonest about his past, of keeping secrets that were only now coming to light. Others defended him, insisting that only those inside a marriage truly know what goes on behind closed doors. As the initial shock of their split faded, public curiosity shifted toward an even bigger question. What came next? Would Joni find love again? Would Doug step away from ministry entirely? Would either of them ever fully reveal the truth about their breakup? No one knew the answers, but one thing was undeniable. This chapter of their lives had closed, and millions would be watching to see how the next one unfolded. Then came an even more stunning twist. Rumors surfaced that Doug Weiss could be facing serious legal trouble severe enough to land behind bars. At first, these whispers seemed like nothing more than sensational gossip, exaggerated by tabloids and internet speculation. But as more reports emerged from sources close to the situation, it became clear that something was happening behind the scenes. The first clue that something was amiss came when Doug started withdrawing from public appearances. For years, he had been a prominent voice in Christian counseling, frequently speaking at conferences and making appearances on faith-based television. Then, without warning, he went silent. His social media presence dwindled. Scheduled speaking engagements were abruptly canceled, and long-planned events were mysteriously postponed. The sudden retreat only intensified speculation. Was he deliberately avoiding the public eye? Then came a shocking claim from an insider. Doug was allegedly under investigation for financial misconduct linked to his counseling practice. Some sources hinted at irregularities in his business dealings, leading to legal scrutiny. Others suggested that he was entangled in disputes with former clients, with lawsuits quietly piling up against him. No official charges had been announced, but even the mere possibility of legal trouble sent shockwaves through the Christian community. For Joni Lamb, this was a nightmare she never could have predicted. She was already struggling with the emotional weight of her second failed marriage, but now she was being forced to watch as her ex-husband became the center of a brewing legal scandal. Those close to her say she was in utter disbelief. She had spent her life dedicated to faith, integrity, and the unwavering belief that God was guiding her steps, only to now be left wondering if she had been misled. Had she placed her trust in someone who wasn't who he claimed to be? The very thought of it was enough to make her feel ill. Joni had always been fiercely protective of Daystar's reputation, knowing full well how easily a scandal could shake the foundation of everything she and Marcus had built. But now, with Doug's name tangled up in legal trouble, she realized the fallout could extend beyond him and cast a shadow over her and the network as well. Some media outlets had already begun speculating. Did Joni know something before the divorce that prompted her to leave? Had she uncovered something so troubling that she had no choice but to cut ties before everything imploded? Or had she been pressured to distance herself from Doug to protect Daystar from further scrutiny? The unanswered questions continued piling up, leaving her in an impossible situation. Meanwhile, Doug's troubles were only intensifying. Legal analysts began weighing in, discussing the possible consequences he could face. If financial misconduct was involved, an investigation into his businesses could be imminent, potentially leading to serious charges. If he had mishandled client funds or breached confidentiality laws, the fallout could be devastating. To make matters worse, new reports surfaced suggesting that former employees or business associates had come forward with complaints, adding credibility to the allegations against him. Doug, however, refused to accept any of it. Insiders close to him claimed he was furious over the accusations, insisting that he was being unfairly targeted. He believed that his critics were taking advantage of the divorce drama to attack his character and dismantle everything he had built. After spending decades establishing himself as a respected figure in the Christian counseling world, he now found himself fighting for his reputation. And he knew all too well that in the court of public opinion, accusations alone, whether proven or not, could be enough to destroy everything. Doug's supporters remained steadfast in their defense, dismissing the allegations as nothing more than an orchestrated attempt to tarnish his reputation. For Joni, things had become even more complicated. The public now looked to her for answers, expecting some kind of response to the swirling legal rumors. But what could she say? She had already spoken about the heartbreak of her divorce, but this was a completely different battle. Some sources claimed she had been advised to remain silent for the sake of protecting herself and Daystar. Others suggested that she was still struggling to process it all, trying to wrap her head around how everything had unraveled so fast. If the allegations against Doug were true, what would that mean for Joni's future? Would people see her as a victim of deception, or would they begin to question her discernment for ever marrying him? And if Doug was innocent, could she ever mend the damage this ordeal had already done to both of their reputations? These lingering uncertainties remained unanswered. One thing, however, was clear. This legal storm wasn't dying down anytime soon. The ripple effects had only just begun, and no one knew how far they would reach. Meanwhile, fresh rumors continued to surface regarding Joni Lamb's marriage. From the very moment she announced her union with Doug Weiss, the world had been drawn to their story. A woman of unwavering faith, stepping into a new chapter of love after enduring the tragic loss of her first husband. It was a narrative that seemed almost divinely orchestrated. But now, the once inspiring love story had become the center of relentless controversy, with new questions and theories emerging by the day. As time passed, the illusion of a perfect love story began to crumble. What was once seen as an inspiring tale of faith and second chances became the center of whispers, speculation, and eventually outright controversy. Long before their divorce became public knowledge, rumors had already been circulating that Joni and Doug's marriage was not as stable as it seemed. At first, the signs were subtle. Doug's presence alongside Joni started to dwindle. Events where they had once appeared side by side now saw Joni attending alone. Their once active social media presence would have been filled with affectionate posts and shared memories noticeably shifted. There were fewer mentions of their relationship, fewer pictures, and an overall silence that did not go unnoticed. Initially, fans chalked it up to their demanding careers. Joni was managing Daystar, and Doug had his counseling ministry. But as time went on, it became clear that there was more to the story. One of the first major revelations was that Joni's children may have never fully embraced the marriage. According to insiders close to the family, there was friction from the very beginning. While Joni was eager to move forward and find joy again, her children reportedly had reservations. Having grown up witnessing the strong bond between their mother and Marcus Lamb, they found it difficult to accept anyone stepping into his place. There were even whispers that Joni's decision to remarry so soon after Marcus's passing had caused significant tension behind the scenes. Though the family maintained a united front in public, sources suggested that private disagreements had taken place. The cracks had started forming long before the world noticed. Then, even more troubling rumors emerged. Rumors that Doug Weiss had entered the marriage carrying secrets of his own. While Doug had built a reputation as a trusted Christian counselor, skeptics began to dig into his past. Questions arose regarding his previous relationships, financial dealings, and even the authenticity of some of the professional claims. What started as quiet speculation soon gained momentum, further fueling doubts about the real story behind Joni and Doug's marriage. Some speculated that Joni had been so eager to embrace a new season of life that she may have overlooked warning signs. Others believed she had simply put too much faith in someone who wasn't who he appeared to be. The most talked about scandal, however, was the claim that Joni and Doug had been struggling with major disagreements over their public and private roles. While Joni had spent decades building the empire with Dyer, Doug was used to running his own ministry with little outside influence. Reports emerged that Doug had wanted a more prominent role at Dyer, but Joni was hesitant. Some sources claimed that Doug had expected to be more involved in decision-making, while others suggested that Joni felt pressure to integrate him into a system that had been built long before he entered the picture. Their differing views on leadership, ministry, and the balance between personal and professional life allegedly led to numerous arguments behind closed doors. Then came the final, most damning rumor. The idea that Joni had discovered something about Doug that had left her with no choice but to end the marriage. Some speculated that it was connected to legal troubles he had been facing, while others believed it was something more personal. Theories range from financial misconduct to personal betrayals, with no clear answers. All anyone knew for sure was that something had caused Joni to walk away from the marriage entirely, and she wasn't looking back. The media, of course, ran with every possible theory. Some outlets portrayed Joni as a heartbroken woman who had been blindsided by betrayal. Others suggested she had rushed into marriage too quickly and was now dealing with the consequences. There were even those who claimed the entire relationship had been more of a public image move than a real love story, with both parties benefiting from the pairing.